Deputy Vice-Chancellor and Provost, I'm delighted to present our inspirational honorary graduand, Denise Jagger, a tireless advocate for women in the legal profession, an incredible supporter of charitable causes, not to mention a major contributor to the direction of our university as Chair of Council for the last 5 years. Denise embodies our belief in embedding equality and diversity in everything we do. She is committed to making things better. A glance at Denise's resume conjures up 2 words: impressive, and to us mere mortals, intimidating. Following her law degree and postgraduate qualification in EU law, she secured a hugely competitive training contract with Magic Circle law firm Slaughter and May. She later moved to become company secretary and general counsel at Asda during its massive expansion, and wasted no time in reshaping its culture and environment to improve working conditions, benefits, and opportunities for women on the shop floor. She took this determination and drive into her next high-profile role as a partner in international law firm Evershed Sutherland, where she set about fixing the leaky pipeline. That is, the fact that there was a high intake of strong female junior lawyers, but a massive male skew when it came to those who made partnership. While there, she founded Carrie, a networking forum for women in in-house roles, named after Carrie Morrison, the first woman to be admitted as a solicitor in England and Wales just over 100 years ago. Her trailblazing work led to her Woman of Achievement Award at the Women in the City Awards. She was also an active member of the 30% Club, campaigning to boost female representation at board level to at least 30%. Evershed is nearly there, incidentally. 29.4% of partners were women as of April 2022. But Denise would be the first to say that still leaves room for improvement. Gender equality in the legal profession is not a pipe dream, but it is still a long way off. Denise's example reminds us that we need to keep renewing our commitment to that ideal. The Solicitors Regulation Authority reports that while the majority of law graduates are women, women still make up only 35% of partners in firms. The male domination of the bar is starker still. The Bar Standards report that only 39% of all practicing barristers in the UK are women, and of those appointed King's Counsel, women make up 19%. And let's not forget that we're back to 1 woman out of 12 on the Supreme Court. We are especially privileged to have had Denise chairing the University Council because this gendering of power in the law starts in education, and we need to do better at practicing what we preach. The first woman law professor in the UK was not appointed until, wait for it, 1970. And a recent study shows that well over 2/3 of law professorships in the UK are still held by men. Denise's work underlines the importance of diversity for improving business. In her own words, it's not a nice to have or a box-ticking exercise, but it is key to success. During her time with us at the University of York, activity on equality, diversity, and inclusion has increased exponentially. We are taking equality seriously, and for your influence, I thank you, Denise. She led the University Council through the critical and unprecedented pandemic years, and under her chairwomanship, the university has become a real living wage employer in recognition of the fact that low pay in higher education disproportionately hurts women. On top of all of this, during her career, Denise has held several other non-executive director, trustee, and chair roles. Her skills in commercial and corporate finance, governance, retail and international law have been hugely valuable to a vast range of organisations, including the British Olympic Association, and yes, her tenure covered the all-important year of 2012, Northern Ballet and St Giles Trust, a charity that supports vulnerable people facing adversity. In an interview, Denise once said that courage and curiosity are the two most important things for in-house lawyers. I would add that they are the most important things for our students and for you, our graduates, and for us in the academy. Let's hope we can be courageous enough, curious enough, and passionate enough to follow Denise's example and push for change. Deputy Vice-Chancellor and Provost, for her dedication to equality and diversity, for her contributions to the legal profession, for her vast catalogue of charitable work, and for shining a light on how we need to improve as a university, as a sector, and as a society. It is with great pleasure that I present to you Denise Jagger for the degree of Doctor of the University, Honoris Causa.
Through the power vested in me by the University of York, it is with immense pleasure that I confer upon you the degree of Doctor of the University, Honoris Causa. Very well deserved. Congratulations.
Vice-Chancellor, Saul, Deputy Vice-Chancellor, colleagues and students, thank you so much for this award. I really am immensely grateful, and it is really a crowning moment of my period here at York. Because of my role at York, although it generally focuses on governance, I've had the pleasure of attending many graduation ceremonies, and in fact, I've always made a point of doing so, because it just reminds us how important it is, seeing you all bound up on the stage, full of enthusiasm and ambition for your careers. As a result, it also means I've sat here many times and listened to some really inspiring speeches from honorary graduates, whether they're famous writers, musicians, comedians, scientists, inventors. So I'm really humbled to be included amongst their number. But what I don't have for you today is a really interesting story about something innate in me that made me have this really interesting career. I didn't have some particular talent that drove me, or I didn't have any great invention to come across. But maybe, just maybe, that will make my story resonate with all of you a little more clearly. Because it was a long time ago, but I was just like you, many of you today, obviously law graduates. And I sat there thinking I got this career planned as a partner in a law firm. But that's not how it's worked out. So I've tried to think of just a few tips to share with you that you might take on your career. So I think the first one is, Charlotte did mention courage, and I think have a bit of self-belief and courage, because I actually got into a fabulous, magic law firm, but that was certainly not predestined. And certainly at the time, given my background, I went to a very ordinary state school. I was brought up by a wonderful single mum, but I wasn't really destined to get straight into a city law firm. But I believed in myself. And I thought, let's go for it, because what is the worst that can happen? I get turned down. So I think that's an important lesson. You don't always get what you want, and I've faced failure during my career, but I've always been able to turn it into a learning opportunity. So be prepared for that. It builds resilience, which I know a lot of you have got because you've had to, cope with your studies through COVID. So sometimes back yourself, have a bit of courage. The next thing is, although I got into that great law firm, and it would have been pretty simple just to stay there and march up the partnership ladder, I've always been curious, as Charlotte said, and I was always looking for new experiences, learning more. So don't get yourself too narrow, because even though I'd, on the face of it, achieved what I was going to do, if I'd been too focused, I wouldn't have appreciated opportunities that came my way. And that's how come I ended up going into industry. So whilst it's good to focus, do sometimes keep a wider perspective, and then you will seize opportunities. And the way you get them is volunteering. I was always ready to volunteer to try new things, step out of my comfort zone, because lawyers do have a reputation sometimes as we like to specialise, we like to be right and get into the detail, and that could lead you not to try things that are outside your familiar territory. But I would urge you sometimes to do that, be a little brave, and that leads you to other opportunities. But when you do it with enthusiasm. People recognise when you're keen and ambitious and volunteer. So don't be too calculating about what skills will it add, will it be helpful. Just get out there and volunteer. And probably the final thing I'd say is think about giving something back. It's easy for me to say now, towards the end of my career, and I have done lots of charitable work, but you can start it early. And the great thing about it, you really do feel you're making a difference. And you learn new skills, and you meet fascinating people. I mean, being on the board here and chairing York University is one of the most fulfilling things I've done. So whatever your passion, you might be into art, sport, environment, there'll always be groups, communities that could do with your help. So also, don't just think single-mindedly about your career. Think a little more broadly about how you can give back, how you can help those that are perhaps less fortunate than you are. And in doing so, I think you will find you gain skills and gain contacts and find out new things about yourself and where you want to take your career. That's exactly how I've ended up doing such a sort of, array of different things. So I hope you'll bear some of those tips in mind. And meanwhile, I'd just like to thank you again and wish all of you, I can say, I'm sorry for the history of art and art students here, but the law students, I really think it's a great degree to have. And I hope all of you remember your time here at York and remember the alumni office. We're always here to help you with contacts and ideas and people who've followed a similar path. So remember your time with fondness and very good luck to all of you, and thank you.